Welcome back to another episode of the Cat Dad Show. Now, question for you. Do you find it frustrating when your cat does something cute, but as soon as you bring out your phone to capture the moment, they stop doing it? Or do you find it challenging that you can't get your cat to look at the camera when you're trying to take its picture? Today, we have a special guest, Mandi Pratt, a pet photographer out in California. Now, she owns Gray Boy Prints and takes pictures of all kinds of pets, but we're going to focus on cats today because this isn't a dog and pony show. It's the Cat Dad Show. So, Mandi, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, and hello to everybody who is listening.
So, Mandi, we have something in common. Obviously, the love of cats, but specifically with your Jake and wanting to do something to honor and remember him, and myself with the Cat Dad Show and wanting to do something to honor and remember my two beloved cats, Mia and Nomar, who have passed away. Can you just start out by sharing a little bit about Jake and the story of how you first got into pet photography and what inspired you to just capture the unique personalities of cats, which I know can be a challenge, which we're going to get into as well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Jake was nicknamed Gray Boy, my Gray Boy. He was a Russian blue, looking kitty. I always rescue, so he was a rescue. And we got him from the shelter when he was a baby. So, and he lived to be 15. And through the course of all those years, he was really not just my buddy, but when you have that certain pet that is like your soulmate, right?
Mm.
Like you get so close to them. We went through some really hard times. So I am a domestic violence survivor. And so Jake and I had to leave and find a safe place to be. So that kind of gives you an inkling as to, how much he helped me and how much we had a bond. So yeah, he was my absolute soulmate kitty. And, when he passed, I wanted to remember him. Even before that, I knew, what this meant for other people too. And just noticing that bond and wanting to help people remember that, just like I wanted to remember my Gray Boy. So I have an art background. So I graduated a long time ago with a degree in graphic design and took some photography classes. So in 2011, I started photographing pets only and have been doing that since then. And also in 2015, began another arm of Gray Boy Pet Prints, and that was creating these etched pet portraits by hand with my grandmother's printing press, because I had so many people that I had photographed and they were like, oh my gosh, can you do anything special with photos that I have of, pets that have passed? Because I wish I would have done this. And, that was like before the iPhone days. So they weren't such great photos. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't really help you with that. But my grandmother gave me her printing press and was like, now you can help, So I'm amazed at how this printing press and the whole process is able to take even like kind of a crappy looking photo and turn it into beautiful, fine art. So that is the story of Jake from beginning to now.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I was just going through both of your websites and your background. And to be honest, I teared up a little bit because Mia, she passed away last year. So it's been a little bit over a year. She was 20. Definitely understand what you mean by a soul pet. She, I feel like both of them were Nomar and Mia, but Mia was sick for the last couple years, and I felt like her caretaker 24/7. And when I first learned about what you do being a pet photographer, taking pictures of cats even with their owners, I was like, gosh, why didn't I do that with Mia to have these professional photos? But then I learned about your etchings and that you can do amazing pieces of fine art with pictures that, I or anybody else already has, and you turn them into just amazing works of art. And we'll talk more about your fine art, because I definitely want to learn more about that process. And there may be hope for me yet. I can still send you a picture of Mia and have an amazing memory.
Mhm.
But let's talk about taking pictures of our feline friends, because how do we do that? I mean, I have millions of pictures of Mia and Nomar, and now my new cats, Milo and Nico. And there's only a few that are good, because it is just so hard to take a really good picture of a cat. So, how do you manage to capture just that perfect shot of a cat, given their sometimes unpredictable nature?
Sure. First of all, I just want to notice you may be hearing my dog snoring under my feet. So we have a dog and another cat right now. So my dog's favorite place to sit is right under my desk, and she likes to snore very loudly. So you might hear her.
I love it.
Anyway, yeah, I can you repeat the question? She totally
Oh yeah, no worries.
stressed.
Given a cat's unpredictable nature, right? How do we
Yes.
capture that perfect shot?
Yes. Okay. So you're right. It does take a lot of photos, and thank God for digital cameras and iPhones, right? Yeah. So the key thing for me is I always like to have natural light.
Okay.
So I open up the windows, and so I'll talk about at home with my own cat, photographing him with my phone. And then I'll talk about professional photography when I go and do a photo session for a pet at their home. And by the way, I did just write a blog post about end of life photo sessions, because it's kind of become popular now. And I wrote a blog post because I had so many people reaching out to me the past few weeks, and they were like, I found out, my pet's about to pass. Can you come? And I'm like, yes, I will drop everything. I will come. But then they're like, well, okay, maybe next week. But every time it's like they were asking a little bit too late. So I wrote a blog post and I was like, please do it now. Like, if your pet's healthy, great. Get a photo shoot, with yourself and the pet. Or even if they're getting sick, like make sure do it, but I know that I've been there many times towards the end, and it is difficult and you're scrambling to do everything. So I understand how that can get missed, which is where the pet etchings come in, and we can talk about that later. But I'm talking about that because people want to know what types of pictures to send in, and I always say, whatever you have in focus. So that's one of my other points is, number one, use natural light if you can. So I'm just going to talk about right now how I do this with my cat with my iPhone. So I make sure, like, sometimes he'll sit in my office here, and I pull up the shades, so I make sure that there's plenty of natural light coming in. Or that looks a lot better than turning on the light overhead, because a light overhead can make like shadows under their eyes. So like if you've been outside, maybe next time, if you're outside in the middle of the day, the sun is right above you, right? So it's going to make shadows right under the eyes, right under the nose, under the neck, under the chin, I'm sorry, where the neck is. So it's kind of better to have natural light streaming in from the side if possible. So that's what I love to use. And then making sure that it's in focus, right? So with the iPhones, you can like touch where you want it to focus. I think with the other phones too. And that way, the best thing to focus on is their eyes, and it's the closest eye to you, right? So maybe they're turned a little bit. So like if I was like this, it would be the eye that's closest to you. So you're going to touch right there and make sure that that's in focus. And it's hard. Like, so I have my cat's kind of easy to photograph, but my dog, I don't know what it is. Like she sees the camera and she's like, not gonna look, right?
Yeah. I'm actually cat sitting for my friend's cat named Remy, and I want to take pictures, and she's every time I pull out the camera, she looks away. Is
Yes.
there any trick to get them to
Yeah.
look at the camera?
Right. So I use the noises that I make when I'm out professionally photographing and make a total fool of myself. And it's just whatever gets their attention. So you can sound like a kitten and do the or you can do like a sometimes with the dogs I'll go like that, or like sometimes I'll even like snap up above, or even do like a little clap. So sometimes, more so with dogs, they have like a special word where they get, you can get their attention. And I'll usually ask the owner, like, what's their, what do you say to them when you want them to look at you? So sometimes, like, you want a treat, you want to go for a ride. So with the cat, maybe it's just calling their name. But yeah, those are some tips. A dark colored pet is even more important if you can get like more natural light. So the lighter out, the better it is to photograph those dark pets. Let's see, what else? Movement. Oh, I know one thing too. So I noticed with my iPhone, there's a portrait mode and a photo mode, right? And so with portrait, it will focus on, like, say, their face and then blur out the background, which is nice sometimes. But I also usually like to do like one with the photo mode and one with the portrait mode, because the phone isn't really that smart sometimes and it'll blur out like part that I don't want it to be blurred out. So I use that. And then I think that's mainly it for most of those tips. If you think of anything else, you can ask. But also, key is editing, right? So sometimes you get a good photo, but it's still like a little bit dark. So an app that I like to use is called Snapseed. And so it's just sound like it sounds, as like spell snap and then seed. And with that, I can bring the photo in and then work on it. And I like to usually lighten them a little bit. And sometimes I can like dodge and burn a little bit of it just with my finger. And there's all kinds of different things you can do. So that's super helpful too. But when I ask for people to send me photos, they don't have to worry about editing it or whatever. It's just anything in focus. Just send me like 10. And then, I'll go through them and pick the best one. But yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that was great. I didn't even think of like the lighting. Obviously, lighting makes a difference with any type of photography, but
Yeah.
What you were stating in terms of getting the best shot with cats, and even like a darker colored cat, and then even like focusing on the closest eye. I hadn't thought of that either. Now, to help kind of maybe position the cat where you want it, or to help it stay put, because cats could be finicky, they could be walking around. Anything you do with that? Like, do you use treats, do you use toys, anything like that, just to help them maybe just be in the spot that you want them to be in?
Yeah, right. Like, I'm thinking of not my own cat, but other cat, like other, like sometimes I've gone into rescues or shelters and have photographed for them. So it's important to keep them cozy, right? We know cats, they love to be cozy. So sometimes I'll use like a heating pad to get them to stay. So of course, make sure it's not too hot, but just so it feels a little bit cozy. And then, they love blankets. So blankets, and then of course with you. So one of my favorite shots is having them over the shoulder of the owner. So I'm behind and I'm getting a shot of their face, which is over the shoulder of the owner. So that's helpful too.
Awesome. Yeah. And then if somebody is going to do a professional cat photo shoot with you, is there anything that the pet parent, the cat mom or the cat dad, is there anything they need to do or have ready for you before you kind of come over and do that photo shoot?
It's probably a good idea to shut the bedroom doors so they don't hide under the bed. That's a tip. And then, just a suggestion. When somebody is looking for a photographer for a cat, make sure that they've done that before. so that they know and kind of get a feel for their vibe. Because you need to be patient and kind of gentle when you're photographing cats, because of course everybody knows cats like can totally read you. They got you, right? And so
They're
um,
smart like that.
yeah, they're very smart like that. So yeah, like I always say, just keep the bedroom doors shut. And then when I come in, like, we'll just chit chat, and like, I'm not even going to pay attention to them at first. And then they'll just think like I'm there visiting the person and it's not about them. And then, I start to kind of bring out my camera and they can like sniff it out if they want to come over. And then we just start photographing. I have a couple lenses. So I have like a zoom lens. So that way I don't have to be like in their face, right? So if they don't really know me and they're not comfortable with me, then I can use a zoom lens and kind of stand back, but still get in there. So that's helpful. And on your phones too, if anybody doesn't realize this, there's a zoom on your phone too. If you have one of the newer like iPhones, I have the newer iPhone. And if you look on there, there's like a 0.5, a 1, a 2, and a 3. So a 1 is you're shooting it exactly as you see it. A 2 is you're zooming in a little bit. And a 3 is you're zooming in more. Or the 0.5 is zooming out. So that's kind of cool that they offer that now.
Yeah, you're right. And mine actually takes it a bit further. I think it goes
Nice.
5 times.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially with cats that don't know you.
Right.
Using that zoom feature, and
Mhm.
you can get some pretty clear photos these
Mhm.
days with, you zoom too much and it might be a little bit
Yeah,
pixelated.
pixelated.
But nowadays, camera phones are so amazing
They are.
and take such great quality. You can almost get a really, really good picture just zoomed in, and that's a great point. So you don't have to be like right in its face, taking
Yeah.
that picture. When you go to somebody's home,
Mhm.
do they normally have a specific spot that they want you to take the photo, or do you kind of scour the house and you pick the setting and the background that you find that would work best for a photo shoot? And if you do like pick the background or the setting,
Mhm.
what's normally some of the ones that make for the best photos?
Right. I like to have, my goal is always to keep the pet comfortable. And so I always ask where they normally hang out, and we try to see if we can get them photographed there. So one of the last photo shoots that I did for some kitties, it was actually an end of life session, and she had 5 cats. And so, the main goal was getting the one kitty photograph, but we got all 5 of them. And it just took some time. So I just, would kind of see where they're at, where they're comfortable. Most of them were sitting like on a cat tree, right? Where they love to sit by the window, which was perfect natural light. So that was helpful. And one of them was a kitten. So it was kind of more energetic running around, right? So that one I save for the end, right? So usually they get their zoomies out a little bit before that. And of course, having the owner hold the pet helps a lot too. So, like I was talking about, over the shoulder, or just like, holding them like a baby, that kind of thing helps. And then previously you had mentioned treats and toys. So sometimes we'll use like a little toy, or a squeaker, or like, they love the string toys. So we can use that just out of the frame of the photo, and that we can use that to get their attention. I don't know, like treats sometimes, but sometimes that makes them too crazy and you lose their attention. So I only pull that trick out for, if we're not getting what we want yet. So I
Yeah,
save that for the end.
that's so smart. You give them one treat, they want 20.
Exactly. Or
I
like
got dogs.
you shake the treat can and they come like, they're like, where is it?
Yeah.
So yeah.
You mentioned kittens. I want to dive a little bit more into
Mm-hmm.
kittens, but first I want to ask you, because I have a soft spot in my heart for senior cats, just
Yes.
having lost Mia last year. What would you say are the unique challenges and rewards of photographing senior cats? And then how do you ensure their comfort and capture their character?
Yeah. Okay. I love seeing your pets too. They are my absolute favorite. Um, it makes me think of like the Velveteen Rabbit story. I don't know if you ever read that when you're a kid, right? I remember how they get like it gets the fur rubbed off of it because it's so old, right? So it always makes me think of that. Like they have so much wisdom and so much to offer. And that's why I love photographing them, with like, especially like the dogs who get the sugar face, with the white whiskers and everything. So yeah, again, important to keep them comfortable, right? And to make sure that, they're happy, they've been fed, so they look cozy. That's important. And that using the things that I mentioned, like their favorite blanket or their favorite place to lay, maybe even like a little bit, maybe using like a heating pad for at least a couple minutes, getting them cozy, making sure it's not too hot, but that's helpful. And then oftentimes in those cases, like where they're really old and they're sick, I might use Photoshop. So like in that cat photo shoot I was talking about, the kitty had a little bit of ringworm on its ear. So I ended up Photoshopping the kitty's ear in a lot of them, just so it would look more natural. And I always ask the pet parent, like, do you want it left like that, or do you want me to Photoshop? It depends. Like some people want to leave them as they are, so it all depends.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about, and you just mentioned that end of life photo shoots for cats, which I think can be just an amazing gift for a cat parent to give to themselves. Can you talk a little bit more about just the importance and emotional significance of these end of life photo shoots for cats? How do you approach these sensitive sessions? Because for some people, they're that anticipatory grief, right? That's what they're currently going through, and
Yes.
what a beautiful memory you can give them. But how do you kind of approach these sessions?
Right. Well, two things. One, I just want to emphasize, like with a photo session, I remember like with Jake, I had taken a gazillion photos of him, right? But at the end, I was like, wasn't sure whether I wanted photos or not because I wanted to remember him looking healthy.
Yes.
So that's something to consider, whether you want an end of life photo session or not. I don't know, because I mean, it's sweet to have photos of the bond of you together. And sometimes you can't really notice how sick they are, but I don't know. It's up to everybody. Everybody's going to be different on that. And then as far as anticipatory grief is a real thing. Oh my gosh. So that's tough. And I acknowledge that. And oftentimes when I go to do an end of life photo session, the in-home veterinarian is literally coming right after me to put them to sleep. So, that's tough. And so I just work, I'm a naturally like compassionate, empathetic person. So for me, I can't, I don't know. It's like, I don't know how to say it, but like, it's natural or like, I don't feel strange about it, or there's no weird vibe because like I've been through it. I'm a pet parent. I've photographed end of life sessions. I know what that's like. So basically we just go slow and go at their own pace. Another session I did for a dog, we took a lot indoors, and then they were like, do you think we could take some outside? And I was like, of course, whatever you want. So it ended up being kind of long, but that's fine with me. Like, cause this is their last moments and their last memories. So again, make sure that if you're getting a photographer, make sure that they're patient. And so that's how I would answer that question.
Yeah, I love like the last thing you said, patient. You have to be patient because it may take extra time. And the first thing you said, which was that you may not want to have that last memory of of the pictures be when your pet is sick, if they're sick. My friend, she took a picture that I had of Mia, and she did some kind of canvas stuff to it to make it look pretty, and then blew it up into a big print and framed it for me. But she had picked a picture from when Mia was healthier.
Yeah.
Right. But on the other hand, like, I know we're going to talk about your etchings in a few minutes. I've got this sweetest picture of Mia laying on my chest.
Aww.
And it's one, I didn't know it at the time, but it was exactly 1 week before I had to say goodbye to her. So I was like, if we do like an etching, I can imagine that being, just a really beautiful etching, that, because I love that picture. I'll still, share it on Facebook. And even though Mia was very sick, it just really captures the bond between her and I.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
That's beautiful.
I get it.
Okay, let's go the other direction. You mentioned kittens a little bit, but I want to dive in. What are the challenges between taking pictures of an adult cat versus a kitten, and then how do you overcome some of these obstacles?
Right. Well, it also depends on the age of the kitten, right? So I remember taking pictures of teeny, teeny, tiny little kittens at the rescue, and for them, we were like holding them in our hands. That's always a good shot. Again, making sure they're comfy, and it is a little bit different. And it's nice to get them like when they're sleepy. So that's kind of something to think about too. I mean, cats sleep most of the day anyway. So yeah. So let's see what else. Kittens. Again, versus seniors. So obviously with a kitten, you can't do like as much of the baby hold. And the over the shoulder is tricky with the little babies. So again, that's more like holding them in your hands, or maybe having like a super cozy blanket. So then you get some like cool texture and softness with the kitten. So you might need to like kind of wrap it up a little bit, like a little burrito. So yeah, those are some things that I are just off the top of my head.
Yeah. Do you ever try to capture moving images? So like specifically kittens, but even young cats run around a lot, jump. Is that ever part of your photography sessions? And if so, do you have any, you might have a specialized camera that helps with this, but do you have any tips on getting like action shots, but hopefully making them not blurry?
Right. Yeah, that can be tricky. So yes, every once in a while, somebody might want an action shot, but not that often. So like, for example, if you have a stair banister, let's say, and they're walking along the banister and they want that maybe. So like, then there's some paws up in the air, that kind of thing. You can do that. As far as, and some people too prefer different things. Like they don't mind a little bit of blur, for the motion. So I always take both. So I like to take like a static shot. So that's like a fast shutter speed. And then also one that shows movement, like where their paws moving. That way we have both. So with a real camera, you want to have like a higher shutter speed, and that will get that, like freeze that motion, right? So you don't have the blur. With the iPhone, like they're pretty good now. So if you're just, you've touched the spot and you want, to photograph them that way. One thing you can try too. So with the banister, you can get some shots of them walking towards you. And then you can also get a shot from the side of their full body walking, right? So that's another tip, actually, going back to the very first question that you had in the whole thing. And that was another, make sure you try different angles, right? So we might be standing there, right? And say the cat is laying on the bed and it's cute, but we're standing up. right? So our natural inclination is to, oh, how cute. And we're looking down, right? And you take the photo look from your angle. But I encourage people to think of other angles. So get down on your knees, be level with the cat, and then you can get like a really cool shot of their face, you know. So just remember, try different angles. So even walk to the side, you know, try different things.
That's a great tip because we hardly ever do that, right?
I know, right? We just
Yeah.
think, oh, how cute. And we stand where we're standing and we take the shot, but you can get down on their level or move around. And
Or even
then
I wonder if below, like if you're laying on the
exactly.
floor and it's like looking
Yeah.
up at
Yeah.
them. Okay.
Yeah.
My friend's cat Remy, she'll take Remy out for a walk on a leash
How cute.
outside so that we get the natural lighting. But I love it like taking a picture of the cat walking kind of like head on. Almost looks like she looks like fierce out in the
Yeah,
wild. You
right.
know,
Yeah.
almost like a
Yeah.
lion.
Yeah. And another shot that people don't think of too is, I know it sounds, I don't know, maybe, but I love it. My cat is long hair, and I love it when he runs away from me to go get his food and his like fluffy butt. Like it's cute with his tail. And like, I always try to get like a shot from behind also.
Yeah.
So that's a more like maybe creative shot, but yeah.
I love that. So yeah, just really have fun and be creative and play around with it. So I know we've been talking a lot about your photography business. I wanted to share with the viewers that I've put together a really cool resource with all different types of ideas to start a cat business, not necessarily just photography, but cat business ideas in general. If you want that resource, just drop in the chat cat biz and I'll make sure to get that over to you. Manny, I want to kind of switch over, and we've alluded to your fine art etchings. Can you really just explain the process of transforming a simple cell phone photo of a cat into a fine art etching, and what techniques and materials do you use?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Everybody always asks me that because they're like, what is it etching? And like, how long does it take you to make it? I did not think to have one in front of me, unfortunately. There's one right out of reach, so I don't know if you want me to grab it at some point, but
yeah, if you want to grab that, yeah, for sure. And
okay.
I know you've got a cool video on your website.
Right? Oh my gosh, I have so much on my Instagram too. Great Boy Pet Prints.
We'll share these resources too.
Yeah, but yeah. So basically, I have a couple different sizes of them. Like there's ones that are just of their nose. There's ones that are just like a regular size and an 8x10, and some that are bigger. And then I make the memorial ones, which have their paw print on it. And then also if people want like a little tuft of fur, I put that on there. And sometimes people want me to include ashes in the ink. So I have like a little ashes kit that I would send them. And then they send me back like just a teeny bit of the finest part of the ash. And sometimes people have a hard time doing that. So they can have a loved one collect that for them. Or even if this just happened, they can ask the vet or the crematorium to, separate out just a tiny bit. And then I add that into the ink of the etching. And then also I have like a little heart seal, wax seal that I put a little bit in, and that seals the paw print to the paper, to the art, and the tuft of fur. And then the actual etching is right next to all of that. So that's like a very special memorial, because a lot of times, like when your pet passes, you have like all this stuff all over the shelf, right? So you have like a photo of them, the circle impression that the aftercare place gave you, maybe their collar and all that. So like, it's just a place to, like a special memorial all in one. But yeah, I use my grandmother's printing press. So I use sunshine or a light box. I use a metal light sensitive plate. And I use my grandmother's printing press and some dampened fine art paper. So basically what happens is people will send me like a few photos, or sometimes they have that one like you were mentioning. And I'll take it, and sometimes I need to Photoshop it a little bit. So I take out like distracting elements in the background, and then I print that to a clear transparency. And then I take it down to my light box and I expose the transparency over a light sensitive metal plate for a certain amount of seconds. You have to get that just right. And then lift that off. And then I have to rinse off that top layer from the plate and then dry that. And then I have to ink it with some special ink. And then I wipe off the excess ink. So when I exposed it, it kind of took the image and transferred it to the plate. So now there's these grooves in the plate that makes the picture. So when I've inked it and then I wipe off that excess ink, it's only the ink left in those grooves, right? So then I take it over to my printing press there and set it down and then dry off the paper that's been sitting in the water. And then I put it very gently on top of the inked plate. And then I close the printing press and roll the printing press through. Again, this is all over my Instagram and on my website. And then the funnest part is when I roll back the paper and then I get to like peel off the paper from the plate and see what we got. It's so fun. And so then we see, you know, what it looks like. And it's, if you're familiar with letterpress, how things are like pressed into the paper. If you look at the artwork, you can see on the edges where it was actually pressed. So the plate and everything is pressed into the paper. So it kind of gives it this, I wouldn't say 3D, but it gives us this like depth and richness that's different than just a photo. And it's, as you heard, definitely handmade 100% of the way. And it takes like, it depends on the image. Sometimes they're trickier images than the other ones. But yeah, so it takes like an hour or two usually. And then I have to dry it overnight. And then the next day, it's like a whole other thing to like mat it, print it, sign it, or not print it, sorry, mat it, sign it, and wrap it, and then ship it. So, yeah.
So people from all over the country, the world can buy from you.
It's so cool. Yeah, I'm in Southern California, but I've helped people in the UK, in Canada. So
you get me excited about this. You said you had one kind of over.
Yeah, should I grab it?
Yeah, go ahead and grab that. Yeah, I'd love to see. Mandi, are there any types of cell phone pictures that would not work?
Anything out of focus will not work.
Out of focus. Okay.
Yeah. And it's best to send in photos to me or any pet artist that don't have like a lot of filters and stuff done on them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never add filters to mine. So
yeah.
Yeah, you can go ahead and grab it.
Okay. Alrighty. So this one is Jake, and it's just a regular etching. It's not the memorial one.
Oh,
so
sweet. Oh my gosh.
This is the gray boy.
What a great, that's on your website, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, Jake.
Yeah. So it's
Beautiful.
framed, so you can't really see it up close that much, but you can kind of see the edges where it's a little bit pressed in. But yep.
And you can do this even with photos with people in them.
Yeah, that's the cool thing is sometimes I will, not very often, but sometimes I get all excited when there's a person in it too. That's a little bit more tricky. So, you know, I have to really be careful when there's a person in the photo too. But it does work and it looks amazing. So yeah.
Give us a couple resources, like if somebody was interested in this and wanted to see some of your works, where should we go? Your website, Instagram?
If they're on social media, Instagram is the best, and it's at Gray Boy Pet Prints. Gray Boy is with an E. And that shows the photography and the etchings. And there's quite a few reels on there that show how the etching was made. And then on my website shows, you know, clearly all the different options.
Okay.
For the types of etchings. Yeah.
And if somebody just wanted to get a hold of you, are they are they able to get a hold of you just to say, hey, here's a picture I have
Yeah.
here's a picture I'm thinking about, would this work? And you'd be able to tell them. Okay.
Sometimes people do that. They'll just email me and be like, hey, like I'm interested in the etchings, but I have no idea like what types of, what photo would I, or I remember that happened recently, a lady with a black dog. And so she was like, I don't know what to do, are any of these good? And I'm like, yeah, I see one right there. That's perfect. And that's the one that we ended up using. So they can just email me. It's just m@grayboypetprints.com.
Okay. Well, I'm going to email you with that picture
All
of
right, send it.
laying on my chest.
I can't wait to see it. That sounds so adorable.
I think it just really captures our love. So if you've ever wondered how you can turn your love for cats into a thriving photography business, stay put, because we're going to tell you exactly how to do that right now. So, Mandi, I want to go into the business side of things. What advice would you give to somebody who they love animals and just loves the idea of starting a career in cat photography? What are maybe the first steps they should take?
Well, it's interesting because there's the art side of it, right? And there's the business side of it. So you have to kind of marry the two. And that can be tricky if you're heavy on the creative side, right? Or heavy on the business side. So you always want to get support wherever your weakest point is, right? So first of all, a really good resource for pet photography. I don't know if I would per se do just cat photography. I mean, somebody might want to, but the majority of my work is dogs, because I think, unfortunately, not a lot of people with cats think like, that this is possible. Like they don't realize like it's possible, it's not as hard as you think. Right.
You can take a dog more places probably, I guess.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this is a good thing for somebody that wants to be a cat photographer is really think outside the box and be that one in your community that only does cats and specializes it. And if you, sorry to interrupt you, but if you had the most unique cat photos that anybody's ever seen, you can dominate that market.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, go ahead.
And I would say one of the main things is visibility. So it's really key to get out there. So you would want to work on your SEO, right? You want a website and that gives all the information.
That's search engine optimization for people that haven't heard of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you want to get out in the real world. So connect with places where cat parents are, right? So where do cat parents go? So you usually want to work with a shelter, a rescue, and help them out, right? Because that's where you can get practice and also help them, right? So I've done that at a few different rescues, and that's important. And there's different models of business too. So you would want to get into that. So there's a friend of mine that started her business assisting photographers to build their business. So her name is Nicole Begley, and she has Hair of the Dog. It's called Hair of the Dog. And she has a great platform there to teach people all parts of this. So the art, the business, and all of that. So if somebody is truly interested in that, I would recommend them to get Nicole's help. So those are the first things off the top of my head.
Yeah, and in this day and age, it seems like it seems like it is true that social media has kind of exploded.
Right.
How do you use social media to enhance your pet photography business, whether it's Instagram or another channel?
So I do have a Facebook also, but Instagram is my favorite. And that's important too. So zero in on one and focus in on one. And then you can use it however you want. I use it just as a support so people can go and see like what is the latest thing I've done, or like, that's where I have more reels. I do have some on YouTube also. I can send you that link, which shows the process. But yeah, social media is good, but again, like really getting out there in real life and being at different rescue shelters, maybe charities, silent auctions. You can help donate some things there. You can, go out to different events. That's key too. So yeah.
How do you, I know photography in general, I don't know as much about pet photography, but it seems like photography in general is pretty competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in Southern California,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of photographers. I don't know how many specialize in pets, but is there any advice you can offer in terms of standing out from the crowd? If there's 30 different pet photographers in your area, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
what could you do or what could somebody do to stand out from the crowd?
Right. So um, sometimes, I mean, people should know, sometimes people are just price shopping, or sometimes they will notice your brand. Like I've had people be like, oh my gosh, like can I work with you? I love your brand. I love what what you're showing or whatever. Or sometimes people will contact me and they're just like, what's the price? So, that's, and I truly, like, I'm not for everybody because I am an artist. So there are people out there who are just going to take the photos for you and just throw you some images on a disc. And for some people, that's great. But for me, it's just, I have all that art background. And so like, I want to make sure that people print their images, their portraits, right? So they can enjoy them and they're not just like stuck on a thumb drive. So that's just one of my values. I guess that's important to me, but some people don't value that, and that's okay. Some people might be DIY, right? So they might actually take the photos and use them off the thumb drive and make their own album, which is cool. I still offer digital portraits too, but I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm not the cheapest in town. And I do offer, like, when people work with me, I really like get to know them and really serve them. Yeah. Does that answer everything that you
Yeah.
asked?
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think, if we go and think about the old adage of business, if people do business with those that they know, like, and trust,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
first of all, I'm guessing that referrals can play a key role. So if you've done pictures for somebody and they're happy with it, they may
Yeah.
share with another person that wants a photographer, and
Mm-hmm.
really just kind of, to me, like getting out there and making videos. Like if I didn't know any, let's say there were 30 cat photographers in your local community and I didn't know anybody, but I saw that um, you make a daily Instagram reel and did a video, and I got to know you, and maybe perhaps you donate to a cat shelter
Mm-hmm.
a percentage of your proceeds,
Yeah.
or you share your personal journey
Yeah.
and just your personal life. And if we
Yeah.
really get to know you
Yeah.
on that level, then I'm like, okay, I like Mandi as a person, and I think I want to do. And she may charge a little bit more, but her prices are worth it because she's really good. And I feel like I've gotten to know her just from the way she carries herself and on social media.
Yeah.
And so maybe just kind of doing more things like that to stand
Yeah.
out.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I do that I always post, I haven't been so good about posting reels lately, but I do always post to my stories, and I'm always posting my own pets and other resources to help them also. So yeah. And sometimes with the hashtags, I've had a client hire me through finding me through a hashtag. So sometimes people will find you there, but honestly, I think most of my photo sessions come from people find me on my website and then they email me.
Love it. And then kind of last question. It looks like you do some work into commercial photography. So, what are
Mhm.
some ideas? I think that's brilliant. What are some ideas for maybe people that want to get into the business world of kind of similar to what you're doing, and they want to do commercial cat photography?
Sure. Yeah. So there's always businesses that need good imagery, right? Because they have to do what we just were talking about, right?
Stand
Show up
out.
on social media, do a Facebook ad, have a website, right? And so companies, businesses are looking for that also, right? Whether it's a dog food company, cat food company, a veterinary hospital. There's all kinds of pet businesses out there right now, right? So, yeah, they all need imagery. So, whether I also provide, photo and video. So that is helpful, and you can, they're always needing imagery. So it's a good match.
Yeah, that's definitely, and that, I think that's kind of, we talked about think outside of the box. I think that is thinking outside of the box, because possibly normally if you think of like, hey, I want to start a business in pet photography, you might just be thinking of pet owners and their dogs or their cats. But
Right.
like you said, companies need professional photo shoot pictures
Right.
as well.
Right.
So I love that, and even like animal shelters and such.
Yeah, but I have to say though, just that is a different beast. So it's very different from working with pet owners, right?
Yeah.
So even the imagery that you take is different, because you have to think like they do. So like a lot of times with commercial work, you have to make sure that you leave room for text in the image, right? So there's different things that you have to think of with commercial work.
It's a whole different skill set, I guess.
It kind of is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. For those watching, I've put together this really cool resource of ultimate cat business ideas. If you want to start a business centered around your love of cats, just drop in the chat the words cat biz. I'll make sure to get that resource to you. Mandi, before we wrap up, first of all, I just want to acknowledge the work that you've been doing. It's just incredible, from the etchings to the photography to the end of life, just like stories that you could create from your art, I think is very meaningful. Thank you for doing that work. I know we gave kind of some links to get a hold of you, but maybe we can share that one more time.
Sure.
Best websites and social media platforms to connect with you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the Instagram is best, just to like go see the work or follow my own pets on the stories just for fun. That's just at Gray Boy Pet Prints. And then my photography work is at grayboypetprints.com. And there is a little link on there for the etchings, but the best place to see the etchings is grayboypetportraits.com. And that has all the different types I mentioned, the little nose etchings or the memorial etchings, right, with the paw print. grayboypetportraits.com is the best for that. And then I should mention too, on the websites, I offer this one download, and it's all of my favorite picks for resources. So other podcasts that I love, I'll have to add yours. And I'm really, really passionate about pet insurance, having pet insurance. So I give some info there, and then a lot about pet loss and grief support. I give that there too. So when they go to either of my sites, probably more so the Gray Boy Pet Portrait site, you'll see a little pop-up, and that's where you can get that from. Okay. And then, I send out occasional emails, not a lot, but they always have really helpful resources for pet parents.
Awesome. Well, we love resources. Mandi, you have been amazing. This has been very insightful. I'm excited to just take better cat photos myself.
Cool.
And to dive in and email you my favorite picture of myself and Mia. Thank you so much for being a guest, Mandi.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And thanks for having me here.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to the Cat Dad Show. Hope you loved it, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.